welcome Mr. David DeRoche. He's a former U.S. Defense Department official who joins us live from Washington, D.C., as well as Mr. Dan Perry. He's a former editor-in-chief of Associated Press of Europe, West Asia, and Africa region, who joins us live from Tel Aviv. Mr. Perry, how's your take on, Israel and Iran's reaction to this pact emerging when they were eyeing more closeness to themselves?
Yeah, Israel is going to be concerned for sure, because there is a notion in Israel that normalization with Saudi Arabia is in the offing. With Turkey, there's a lot of tension because Turkey has become a major supporter of Hamas. And Turkey obviously is unfriendly towards Israel. The interior minister of Turkey recently suggested he sees himself as the governor of Jerusalem in some neo-Ottoman near future. Erdogan obviously is trying to benefit politically from some kind of rabidly anti-Israel posture. As for Pakistan, complicated. Pakistan has many faces. They purport to be a U.S. ally, but they play games with being aligned with the Taliban. Of late, Pakistan seems to be trying to get back into America's good graces. If they really go all the way in that regard, then they will not only potentially find ways to have a more productive relationship with India, but perhaps they might in the future be a candidate to join the Abraham Accords. So it isn't really clear. What is for sure is that Israel is going to be worried about seeing Saudi Arabia align itself with potentially Hamas supporting unfriendly countries like Turkey.
And building on that, coming back to you, Mr. DeRoche, why do you think U.S. in particular has allowed this to take place?
Really good question. So historically, all three of these countries are allies or partners of the United States. I mean, Turkey is a NATO ally. Pakistan is a major non-NATO ally, although as Mr. Perry noted, there's a lot of controversy. And I actually was the Pakistan country director in the Pentagon, and I can tell you that the question that senior leaders most frequently asked was, what is Pakistan really, what is Pakistan policy? What really is their view towards the Taliban? And the problem is Pakistan is a very fragmented country and a government full of factions where, for example, the Army Chief of Staff plays a role that is both beyond constitutional mandate and extremely dysfunctional. Saudi Arabia is an extremely pragmatic country that is a major security partner in the United States. The United States is their most important security partner. As Dan noted, the consensus is that they were very close to acceding to the Abraham Accords, and the only thing holding it back really is some sort of adequate resolution of the Palestinian situation that could be sold to the Saudi general public. Historically, the United States has sought to have its partners engage in collective security. We have welcomed the Gulf Cooperation Council as a collective security organization. Our main concern is that they're not doing it quickly enough. Both Turkey and Pakistan were part of CENTO for 30 years, which was sort of an analog to NATO in the Middle East that the United States supported but didn't formally belong to. I think that the other factor which people don't talk about enough is that there's always the risk of one country starting off a conflict and dragging everybody else into a bigger conflict. We saw this when, for example, Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. That led to a regional conflict, led to the downfall of Assad in Syria, for example. Having these three countries in some sort of alignment actually restrains the possibility for independent action. So I think all in all, this will be viewed as interesting as long as it doesn't take an overtly anti-Israel cast to it. I think the United States will be either indifferent or moderately happy about it.
Thank you for highlighting that. Building on that, coming back to you, Mr. Perry. Mr. Perry, do you see any other country trying to be added to this alignment or alliance, or do you think any other alliance could be emerging to counter this power?
I don't think this will be taken seriously enough to cause a counter alliance. As for adding to the alliance, I suppose it's conceivable that Qatar might join. I very much doubt, obviously, that the UAE would. They would be opposed to it, if anything. Bahrain may be an interesting case, or Oman. But look, Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia are very, very important players. There is no one of that weight that could potentially join other than Egypt, and I do not think Egypt will join for Egypt's own internal purposes. So I think much remains to be seen about how serious this is and whether this is some version of West Asian or Middle Eastern NATO, where an attack on one is an attack on all. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Because Iran is attacking Saudi Arabia potentially. So would that mean that Turkey and Pakistan must rush to its defense? It's too early. It's certainly interesting, and I think we should maintain watchful waiting.
Coming to you, Mr. DeRoche, do you not see any other country trying to join?
Qatar during the blockade, that letting the situation.
Mr. DeRoche, do you not see any other country trying to join, like Mr. Perry mentioned about Egypt, or any other alliance emerging to counterweigh this?
It's a real interesting question. Mr. Perry's point about Egypt is a good one. Egypt, on paper, has a huge army. It's a relatively professional army, although the performance is of question. And of course, but the Egyptians are very wary. They're well aware that, particularly the Gulf states, see them as a sort of manpower pool for Gulf state interests. So they kind of tend to stay apart.
Mr. Perry, rather surprising news coming in from Thailand, where school shootings in this area of Asia is very rare. How surprising was this, and what more can you tell us about this?
Look, there's a view in the world that mass shootings are a little bit like hurricanes or whatever random events, and somehow are unpreventable. But the fact is that Thailand has relatively lax gun laws. And at the end of the day, every society basically has a choice about whether to allow this. And imagine a situation where being caught with a weapon of any kind, that is a firearm, would land you for 50 years in prison. My guess is that at that point, very much fewer people would carry firearms, and they would all be criminals or police. Societies refuse to do this, and the consequence of that, especially in an era where there was a lot of mental ill health and where there was a lot of radicalization because of social media and other factors, you end up with these events. So in the end, we all have a choice to make, and mine would clearly be to advise Thailand and the US and pretty much every other country to ban weapons, firearms, in a way that is draconian. And the idea that knife crime would have an equivalent potential danger is preposterous. But that's a choice to be made, and any country that does not choose to go that way is going to occasionally have mass shootings. And that's the way it's going to have to be until politics turns. We will wait and see whether there comes a time where public opinion is fed up with this and ends up agreeing with me.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Perry, for sharing that. Please do stay with us as we will come back to you. We have a breaking news coming in from Russia and Ukraine. Agenda, arguing that the policy has been misused through birth tourism. His previous ruling, because they apply to groups it claims fall outside existing constitutional protections. The orders are expected to face immediate legal challenges, while President Trump has made limiting birthright citizenship a key part of his immigration agenda, arguing that the policy has been misused through birth tourism. His previous executive order has attempted to deny automatic citizenship to some children born in the U.S., but the Supreme Court has ruled against that effort and upheld long-standing interpretations of the 14th Amendment. Now we welcome back our guest, Mr. Dan Perry. He's a former editor-in-chief of AP of Europe, West Asia, and Africa. Joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Mr. Perry, for staying with us. Mr. Perry, do you see this going forward? What hurdles can this President Trump's new initiative have, or not new, but renewed?
Look, the Trump administration is very corrupt, intellectually incurious, often mendacious, and totally ridiculous. So it's very attractive to just trash anything that they attempt to do, because generally speaking, that would be justified. In this case, it's complicated. Only about 30 countries in the world have some version of U.S. birthright citizenship. It isn't necessarily to be assumed that if your parents are legal arrivals in a country and you're born in that country, you should have citizenship. So I do understand where this is coming from, especially given that America has a real significant challenge with unregulated and essentially illegal immigration, which touches on a far bigger issue about whether it's okay for countries to want to preserve their culture and restrict potential arrivals to people who they think might fit in. So this is a complex issue. But that said, the 14th Amendment is pretty clear, and I sort of fail to see how the Trump administration, short of executive action that would be necessarily short-lived, could possibly actually succeed in changing the situation. Much more likely is that more robust efforts to police the border will as time goes on, become assumed, and it doesn't have to take the form of the, again, corrupt and criminal and vulgar and murderous nature of enforcement that we see with ICE. Some future American government that is not as embarrassingly preposterous as the Trump administration is will have to get hold of this issue, properly police the border, but in all likelihood not actually abrogate the 14th Amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dan Perry, for joining us today and sharing that insight.